program was enacted through the Social Security Act of 1935. Its stated intention was to be a temporary program that would provide financial assistance after retirement. Money was taken from the payrolls of current workers and then redistributed to retirees. Based on this fact alone, it becomes apparent that from the start, Social Security was not a temporary program. How could a temporary program take money from you now and promise to give it back to you later? The Social Security system is a hapless cycle and a Ponzi scheme. It is a program rife with poor planning, as FDR and the drafters of it did not predict that the average lifespan would increase in the future and failed to plan for population surges like the baby boom, which occurred shortly after World War II. Today, FDR's program has left a terrible burden on the federal government's budget and continues to take money out of the hands of those who earned it. The program has also infantilized America's seniors by making retirement into an expected social norm, thereby leaving little genuine choice for the aging population. Upon its creation, Social Security excluded many women and minorities from receiving its benefits, typically only practitioners of certain professions. Jobs that were commonly held by white males were eligible to get financial benefits from Social Security. People in many jobs, such as teachers, nurses, hospital employees, social workers, librarians, domestic servants, railroad workers, farm employees, and government employees, were not required to pay into or able to collect from Social Security. Consequently, the Social Security system tended to discriminate against those classes of people who made lower wages and were not easily able to save for retirement. In subsequent years, the types of professions that were included in the financial benefits grew, but unfortunately so did the costs to taxpayers. Only by excluding large groups of blacks from Social Security, a government decision based on race, could FDR get his infantile socialism supported by Southern Democrats in Congress. Nevertheless, Social Security still failed miserably at being even an efficient or equitable socialist program, if there is such a thing. The problem with socialism, according to former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, is that sooner or later the government runs out of other people's money. Indeed, ours has. Because of its immoral, unlawful, unconstitutional structure, almost since its inception, Social Security has needed billions in taxpayer bailouts. Milton Friedman criticized Social Security for redistributing wealth from the poor to the wealthy. The system winds up making people with large salaries pay a lower percentage of their total income than those making less money. Additionally, richer people tend to have longer life expectations than poor people because wealthy people can often afford better quality health care and healthier lifestyles. Because the Social Security system pays until death, the wealthy often collect benefits for a longer period of time than do the poor. The truth is that the Social Security system is a Ponzi scheme, so elaborate and well-funded it could make Bernie Madoff blush. Yet while Madoff spends the rest of his life behind bars, the government is allowed to get away with its nearly identical scheme. Because who is going to put a stop to the government's theft when the government fails to regulate itself? Through Social Security, the government takes your money and then gives you an IOU in return. Economist Thomas Sowell exposes Social Security as a pyramid scheme and describes the many problems associated with it. Social Security has been a pyramid scheme from the beginning. Those who paid in first received money from those who paid in second, and so on, generation after generation. This was great so long as the small generation when Social Security began was being supported by larger generations resulting from the baby boom. But like all pyramid schemes, the whole thing is in big trouble once the pyramid stops growing. When the baby boomers retire, that will be the moment of truth, or more artful lies. So just as in every Ponzi scheme, some people are going to get swindled out of their money. We see this today as the government is running out of funds while trying to dole out money to the large number of retiring baby boomers. The baby boomers are a generation who paid a great deal of money into the Social Security system, and money was plentiful while they were in the workforce because that generation was so much larger than the one it was supporting. And now who is going to support the baby boomers? There is no money left to support this large generation of retiring people who contributed to the system in large sums of money. The government keeps pushing their retirement age up so that it can spread out the relatively small amount of money it has to the vast amount of recent retirees. Social Security is supposed to be a rainy day fund for retirees, but now that the rain is pouring, the government is finding the fund is drying up. If only the large population of recently retired citizens were the only problem with Social Security today, but this is one of many problems. Money that comes in through Social Security taxes has often been spent by politicians on endeavors other than funding for the Social Security system. What has happened is that the Social Security taxes that were supposed to go into a trust fund have in fact been spent by politicians. The government bonds turned over to the Social Security system in exchange for this money changes absolutely nothing. These bonds are just claims on future general tax revenues. The only purpose served by the bonds is to make numbers look good when the reality is very different. Debts are hidden rather than paid. So in essence, the government takes our money and uses it not for the purpose it purported, and we will probably never gain that money back. It does not take a criminal mastermind to detect the inherent deception and thievery involved in this situation. The so-called lockbox for Social Security that we hear politicians pontificate about has never existed. Indeed, the government treats Social Security as its slush fund, with insincere promises to pay back more than it stole. This is thievery at the highest possible level. In terms of dollars paid, the American Social Security system is the single largest government program in the world. The United States wastes more of our money on Social Security than it does on extremely expensive programs such as national defense or medical programs such as Medicare and Medicaid. So while politicians lie by pretending that our money is safe and that we will someday redeem the IOU, they have quietly orchestrated the biggest swindle of all time. FDR's legacy of lies. While present-day politicians are certainly to blame for trying to sweep the problems of Social Security under the rug while still collecting our money, they are not to blame entirely. There is no easy or fair way out of Social Security, because ending it today means stealing the money of those who paid yesterday. Also, the system has caused the elderly and retired to become a class of dependents, in that they plan their retirements with the expectation that they will be receiving a pension from the government. Today's politicians have been left between a rock and a hard place by the mess bequeathed on them by the Ponzi scheme's chief founder and principal swindler, Franklin D. Roosevelt. FDR was only able to get Social Security to pass because of the unique political climate during his presidency. Between the lagging economy he made worse, and later the war he manipulated the U.S. into, FDR was able to enact many New Deal measures that took and continue to take away our property and our freedoms, are unconstitutional, violate basic laws of economics, and are plain damaging to America. Social Security is unconstitutional in that it violates the Due Process Clause of the Fifth Amendment, which prohibits the government from taking property of citizens without due process, meaning a trial. A scheme in which the government taxes the money we earn, takes it, and gives it to others, leaves Americans with no choice in the matter but to surrender their money, property. This is a violation of both our Fifth Amendment rights and our natural law rights. From a more personal perspective, Social Security has had a profound impact for the worst on American culture. Part of growing old in America now involves settling down, retiring, and living off of government money. The government has managed to turn what is for many a healthy, vibrant, and mature stage of life into a reversion where the elderly beg for an allowance from the paternalistic figure of government. Before retirement was institutionalized by Social Security, there was no such thing as a stage of life where people were left to grow old in the lonely isolation of their living rooms or in Florida. It used to be the living standards of older people were upheld through a variety of sources: employment income, savings, and help from children. One article by Mises Institute writer Dale Steinrich describes the harms that came with the invention of retirement. Retirement is among the most economically wasteful and socially destructive institutions created by government. The most experienced and knowledgeable workers are bumped from productive employment to the world of golf courses, bingo parlors, and TV watching. Retirement punted older people out of the active community of enterprise, where they are most needed for both their skills and their positive cultural influence. They have also been marginalized in society at large, so that young people tend not to interact with them on a daily basis. Indeed, the elderly community has become the butt of many cruel and demeaning jokes in our society, and much of this has to do with FDR's harmful legacy of lunacy. All of the programs highlighted in this chapter stemmed from the federal government's attempts to gain more power so that it could exert more control over the people. These supposedly temporary government programs have also left lasting effects on the American economy, American people, and our ability to be free. The role of the federal government, however, is to stay out of our lives, not to set up programs to dominate us, correct every wrong, address every social need, and lie about it. Lie number 10. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. In a 1988 speech, President Ronald Reagan declared, "There seems to be an increasing awareness of something we Americans have known for some time, that the 10 most dangerous words in the English language are, 'Hi, I'm from the government, and I'm here to help.'" That day there was laughter when a convivial Reagan uttered the words to the representatives of the future farmers of America. As is usually the case, there's a